Stellar Blade is a proper breath of fresh air, and that's because it doesn't try to apologise for what it is. It doesn't play coy, it doesn't pull punches, it leans in with cleavage and confidence and dares you to judge it. Now, I grabbed the PC version recently, mainly because I wanted to see if the jiggle physics had ray tracing, and thought to myself, right, let's give this one the full Reggie treatment. But let's be honest lads, there's a theme running through this game like a pole dancer at a stag do, and that theme is tits and arse. No point beating around the bush, Stellar Blade chucks those melons at you like it's the Last Supper. It's unapologetically horny, with camera angles so cheeky they'd get banned on Twitch, and that raises two things. Well, maybe three things for some of you. First, you might think this is just titillation wrapped round a shallow hack and slash, but spoiler alert, it ain't. Underneath the latex and thigh highs is a solid combat game with an arcade soul and a proper challenge. Second, the pearl clutching mob might start screaming about objectification of women and digital oppression, but I'd argue the opposite. This game could only work with a female lead. It's power fantasy meets fashion runway, and it pulls it off with style and sass. So there's a lot to unpack today, both gameplay and booty wise. As always, put the kettle on, grab a cuppa, and let's talk arse. Now, you can't properly review Stellar Blade without addressing the elephant in the thong. So let's just tackle it head on, shall we? Every trailer, every screenshot, every second of gameplay you've seen online includes a healthy dose of underboob, thigh gap or camera angles that would make a paparazzi blush. And that's not by accident, no. This game knows exactly what it's doing. The main protagonist, Eve, is a stylised female warrior with a pair of jubblies that you could bounce a 50p coin off, and an arse that's been sculpted like a Michelangelo statue that got horny. But here's the bit that matters. She's also a brilliant character. Strong, skilled, driven, a proper force of nature. See, this is a Korean-made action RPG with all the anime flair, high-octane combat and emotional melodrama that you'd come to expect. And it's important to clock that cultural context. Now, I'm not about to give you a university lecture on Eastern media depictions of femininity and power, but the truth is, this ain't a cheap cash-in on some weird fever dream cooked up by a bloke in his basement. It's stylised fantasy, and it bloody well works. If anything, Stellar Blade gives us a female lead who doesn't need rescuing, doesn't bend down to blokes, and doesn't apologise for being sexy while she's slicing through alien goo monsters like a dominatrix. Her story kicks off after watching her mate get mulched in front of her, and rather than cry about it, she straps in, powers up, and sets out to save the world. No simps required. She's not a damsel, she's the danger, and sure, she does it in high heels and a top that's clinging on for dear life, but that's the fantasy, innit? The devs know their audience. Boys like blood and boobies, just like the ladies out there are swooning over fairy lords with 8-packs and wings in those Akota books. So if you're offended by Eve's assets, no worries, there's always another walking simulator around the corner. But don't mistake sex appeal for weakness here. Eve is built like a pin-up and fights like a boss, and that's a combo that I'll back every single time. Which brings me nicely to the next problem you get when reviewing Stellar Blade, and that's the chesticles conundrum. Because let's be honest, those bouncy baps are the first thing anyone notices. We even open this review with it, and that's exactly why so many dismiss it outright. Oh, it's just titty bait, they cry, while secretly watching the slow-mo dodge roll for the 47th time. But here's the truth, my pedigree chums. Stellar Blade is a bloody brilliant beat-em-up RPG underneath all that silicone swagger. The combat, punchy, slick. You wield this elegant but savage sword, and by God, it handles like a dream. Slashing, spinning, pinning enemies. But parrying, that's where the real money shot is. Get your timing right, and each successful parry chips away at your enemy's balance bar. And when that hits zero, down they go, flat on their back, staring up at Eve's mighty lung biscuits, wondering where it all went wrong. And this is where it gets spicy. Tap Y on your controller and boom, a cinematic takedown kicks in. Stylized camera angles, flashy choreography, and Eve delivering the kind of finishing move that had made Dante from Devil May Cry raise an eyebrow. It's violent ballet served with a side of booty. Honestly, it's so damn satisfying you'll find yourself parrying just for the B-roll. You don't need the bonus damage, you want the angle, and that's where Stellar Blade nails it. Flashy without being hollow, stylish without losing substance. It's action porn, and I say that as a very sincere compliment. But don't worry, this ain't Expedition 33 levels of perfection parrying where one mistimed tap means you're dead before your cuppa's gone lukewarm. No, this is flexible combat. You can mix weak and strong attacks into some stylish combos, or if you're not feeling brave, you can block your way through like a nervous virgin on prom night. And of course, there's the dodge. Time it just right and you'll get that sweet slowdown effect slipping past claws. But there are also some helpful cues too, usually in the form of colours. If you see an enemy's fist flash red, it's time to dodge. If you see him turn blue, you'll be able to dodge right behind their arsehole with an extra button push. But wait, there's also more on the combat system. You've got the beta system, which is a sort of rage meter that lets you unleash flashy special moves. It's straightforward with a simple button press or two on the controller, and it's satisfying as hell when you ramp up the spectacle without overcomplicating it. Hit stuff, parry stuff, dodge with style, and boom, your beta bar is topped up, allowing you to unleash hell with a flick of a button. Layered on top of all this is a surprisingly thoughtful skill tree, and yes, it's actually useful. No fluff, no filler, just straight up enhancements that matter. Want to get better at breaking through shields? There's a skill for that. Need a bigger parry window because your reflexes are shite after 2 pints? Sorted. Whether it's passive buffs or flashy new combos, everything here feeds into mastering Eve's moveset, and by the time you're 10 hours in, you'll feel like a bona fide bouncing ballerina, pirouetting through enemies, twirling into takedowns and slicing your way to glory, all whilst looking like she owns the top OnlyFans account in Apocalypse Earth. As for the enemies, there's enough variety in looks, but I won't lie, their behaviour is another story. Sure, you've got your range spitters and the occasional winged nuisance swooping in from the cheap seats, but most of the buggers prefer to be right up in your face, and truth be told, they don't differ all that much in how they go about life. Once you've figured out the parry window on one of them, that species is basically cracked for the rest of the game. They're well designed, no doubt, and creepy enough to keep things tense, but mechanically, they all feel a bit samey. The bosses though do mix it up a bit more. Yeah, some are classic damage sponges, but parrying them into the dirt and unloading a fresh combo of Eve's double whoppers straight to their smug rug, that's the kind of satisfaction that you could write home about, or at least shout loudly on YouTube. Still, whilst the bosses were more interesting to battle, I don't feel there was quite enough bravery in their design to give us something truly unique. The world of Stellar Blade though, bit of a mixed bag this one. You see, the biggest offender by far is that opening slog. Now don't get me wrong, it looks the dog's bollocks, immaculately rendered with post-apocalyptic vibes and the kind of lighting that makes latex glisten like it's been buffed with baby oil. But under all that shine, there's not much going on. See, the early hours are painfully corridor driven, no world map, no freedom, just tight linear pathways that occasionally open up into bigger spaces before funneling you straight back into another fancy pathway. Sure, there are side alleys to poke around, safes to crack with codes, the odd dog tag to nick off a corpse, but the world itself feels a bit dead. A perfectly sculpted mannequin with no soul. And worst of all, this ain't just a quick 45-minute warm-up. No, we're talking a couple of hours of this guided tour stuff before things finally kick off. And I didn't hate it, but I sure as hell wasn't gripped either. And just when I thought Stellar Blade had missed its chance to really stretch those lovely legs, bam! It happens. After the first major boss fight, the game tears off its corset and says, right, let's go and have some fun. Suddenly, you're in a semi-open world setup, able to roam around, pick up side quests, explore every nook like a horny raccoon, and actually plan your own route using a map. And it's in this semi-sandbox that Stellar Blade finally finds its groove. You're given new tools to mess about with, tougher enemies that'll smack you if you get cocky, and the sweet incentive to grind XP and to evolve into an even deadlier dominatrix of destruction. It's still got moments of corridor design and some slightly clinical platforming, a bit too generic in layout if you ask me. This is perhaps best seen actually with the resting locations that you come across where you can upgrade skills and whatnot, which, dare I say, looks stolen from Final Fantasy. They all look a bit basic in design and all look a bit the same. It's this tired design that you come across in a lot of other places too. Missions are a bit plain Jane in what they ask you to do. Mostly you're tasked with finding X items to open a door or turn on X power unit to progress further. The devs ran out of ideas early in how to keep it all exhilarating. Nonetheless, the opening up of the game does at least make it feel like a real world. For my money, scrap the opening section entirely, launch us straight into the open zone, throw a few flashbacks in later if you must. Don't make me crawl through corridors though, when there's a massive playground just waiting to be unlocked. I do wonder then, how many of you players switched off before Stellar Blade really gets going? Graphically, Stellar Blade is, well, stellar. The visuals are absolutely lush, and let's be honest, Eve's fun bags are a technical marvel in their own right. Those physics, immaculate. Someone spent months in a dimly lit office fine-tuning every bounce and sway like they were animating the Mona Lisa's rack in 4D. But it's not just about the sweater puppies. Her hair cascades beautifully down her back, her skirts flutter in the wind like a shampoo advert on heat, and yes, there's a whole buffet of pervy outfits to unlock. Latex, leather, you name it, it's here and it's ready for slow camera pans. But let's not get too distracted, because the enemy models equally impressive, just in the horrible mutant leather handbag sort of way. Wrinkled fat rolls, glistening pustules, and enough gritty skin texture to make you dry heave. It's grotesque, it's detailed, and it works. Then there's the world itself, dripping in modern effects. We've got depth of field, heat haze rising off scorched streets, shadows that bend and dance exactly how they should, and lighting that makes everything pop like it's posing for a promo shot. The surfaces are especially tasty. Concrete looks like you could sand a plank with it. Rocks are jagged and weathered, and from miles away you can actually make out the little cracks and crevices like a geological pervert. Now, I was running this on a beefed up PC, 4K, ultra settings, every bell and whistle turned on, and still I was pulling in a buttery smooth 300 frames plus per second, which tells me that this port is tight, optimised like a dream. None of that stuttery, half-assed console to PC nonsense. Stellar Blade runs like a dream and it looks like a fantasy, and I love that the devs treated PC players like proper first-class citizens for once. That said, it ain't flawless. Dunk Eve in some water and she comes out drier than a cracker in the Sahara. The rain effects, less biblical downpour, more like someone spitting on you from a hotel balcony. And while the environments look great, they do feel a bit static. You can slam yourself into scenery at full tilt and nothing so much as a wobble. It all feels a bit stiff if you weren't stiff enough already. Still, minor gripes aside, this is top tier eye candy. Sound design, now that's a funny one, because I reckon this one is really all down to personal taste, and for me, I bloody hated it. Proper nails on a chalkboard kind of stuff. The music is that melodramatic K-pop nonsense, like someone shoved BTS into a fantasy blender and poured the result over parts of Stellar Blade. It's all synth, sad vocals and high-pitched voices, but I've got to respect the context. This is a Korean developed game that leans all the way into its cultural roots. So if you're the kind of player who grew up loving JRPG anthems and fantasy pop bangers, you'll probably be bopping your head while I'll be muting mine. Voice acting, bit of a mixed bag. Thankfully, Eve herself is spot on. No cringe, no weird anime gasp, just solid, grounded delivery that suits her whole quietly wrecking everything in Hills vibe. But the rest of the cast, Bloody hell, some of them sound like rejected game extras. Every time a new character pipes up, I find myself wanting to reach through the screen and give him a firm slap. I get that it's stylised, but cheesy voice acting is my personal kryptonite, and no amount of cultural appreciation will make me sit through a screechy monologue without flinching. Now, sound effects, that's where it earns its keep. Sword swipes will slice through the air with real weight. You can hear the crack of impact, the squelch of flesh and the crunch of bones like a horror film sound designer's wet dream. And when you land one of those cinematic B-roll finishers, glorious chaos, the roars, the slashes, the enemy howls, it all hits like a butcher's shop explosion. So overall, it ain't my cup of tea musically, and I won't pretend it is either, but it's not bad. If you're into emo fantasy ballads and bubbly anime screeches, you'll be right at home. For me, I'll just take the sound effects, mute the vocals, and let Eve do the talking with her blade and her cheeks. Stellar Blade then finally lands on PC, bringing with it all the juggly goodness our console brethren have been ogling for months, and I for one am chuffed that we can now experience the jubblies firsthand with the added bonus of 4K textures and uncapped frames. PC Master Race meet Bounce Physics 3.0. Look, Stellar Blade ain't perfect, I know that. The world's a bit flat at times. Beautiful, sure, but sometimes soulless. The missions can get a bit samey. That opening segment, far too linear and generic for my liking, and enemy variety could definitely use a few more wrinkles in the design department. But with all that said, the combat, it slaps, it's fluid, it's brutal, and it hits like a brick to the bollocks. The parrying, the beta skills, the skill tree, it all comes together in this beautifully stylised beat 'em up playground that's hard to put down. And once Eve's fully levelled up and spinning through enemies like a weaponised ballerina, you'll start to treat Stellar Blade exactly how it should be treated, as an arcade-style action romp that doesn't apologise for having a bit of fun. More than anything, I respect the fact this game knows exactly what it is. It's sexy, it's stylish, and it doesn't care if it offends the joyless fun police. Yeah, there's tits and arse around every corner, but so what? In a world where the PC brigade seems to have your bollocks in a vice over every creative decision, it's honestly refreshing to play something that says, yeah mate, she's in heels, got a latex catsuit, and she'll still slice you in two. Deal with it. It's fantasy, it's escapism, and it's bloody entertaining. That is, until the wife walked in on me. I had to alt-tab quicker than a teenage boy in the family computer room. Until next time, my lovelies, love to you all, Reggie